Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. In the aftermath of the bombing in Boston, I think one of the immediate concerns that people in the Cleveland area had, like they do after any situation like that, is this going to affect our community in particular? Are we going to allow it to disrupt our daily routines and our ceremonies, our events? And so immediately after that happened, we started having conversations with our partners in law enforcement and public safety. Sheriff Bova and I consulted and said, what can we do to make sure that with upcoming events that we provide the level of safety that the residents of Cuyahoga County in Northeast Ohio deserve? We're fortunate in that we've already laid some groundwork to do that. And Sheriff Bova is going to talk about that a little bit. But we ended up forming an impact unit of about a dozen deputies that we actually hired quite some time ago. And we did that for a number of reasons. Number one was we wanted to have the County Sheriff's Department take on a larger role in coordinating emergency response and public safety emergencies, and also to be ready to respond to something when it comes up. And this is one of those circumstances. So we're one of the few counties in the state that has that ability to do that. And this is exactly the kind of occasion where now we have the ability to do it, and we're going to do it. And this is, I think, the way that communities should respond when you have an act of terrorism. We don't panic. We take it in stride. We go about our business, but we make sure that we bring to bear the resources that we have to keep people safe. So in particular, we knew that we had the Cleveland Marathon, which was one of the longest-standing running marathons in the United States. We knew that we had that event coming up, and we wanted to be prepared for it and ready for it. And so today we're letting the public know that we're getting more engaged and more involved in providing security for that event than the county ever has been. We're going to be deploying our sheriff's deputies, our impact unit in particular, to make sure that the 20,000 plus runners, fans, and volunteers are going to be kept safe. The route passes a number of historic landmarks, as you probably know, including the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Cleveland Brown Stadium, Progressive Field, Quicken Loans Arena, Ohio City, the West Side Market, Tremont, Playhouse Square. The list goes on and on. So it's a real community event, and we wanted to do our part to make sure that this community event was something that people were still going to feel safe to participate in. And I think the plan that we're rolling out is going to help do that. We're not going to do all the work. We're working with the local organizers, and you're going to hear from Jack Staph, who's executive director of the marathon. At this point, I want to turn it over to Sheriff Bova. He's going to talk a little bit about our impact unit and how they're going to be deployed that day to make sure that we maintain these levels of safety that people have come to expect. Sheriff?
Thank you, County Executive. First of all, my condolences go out to, and it can't be said enough, to all the members of the victims of the Boston tragedy. The impact unit will be assisting not only our local partners in law enforcement, but also the security force within the marathon itself. The impact unit is close to a dozen highly trained officers that'll be assisting in a way to with the route. I don't want to give too much of the information out, but they're going to be assisting sort of secretly throughout the route of the marathon. Besides the impact unit, we'll also have our K-9s units out there assisting along with the CPD and, again, the Marathon Security Force. Thank you.
Great. I want to recognize Jack Staph. He's Executive Director of the Marathon. Say a few words about their efforts. Jack.
Thank you. First, I'd like to reiterate my condolences to the victims of Boston, to the race officials, the participants, and the spectators, and of course the first responders for the tragic event that occurred in Boston. Since last Monday, we've been working with our security company to review our security protocol and to take additional precautionary measures as needed for the upcoming race on May 19th. Rest assured, our security plan, though already quite strong, will be even more intense this year. Runner, volunteer, and spectator safety has been and will be our primary focus. Therefore, the generosity of Cuyahoga County to provide us with this additional high-level sheriffs on race weekend is very appreciated. I'd like to offer my sincere thanks and also speak on behalf of our 22,000 participants in thanking County Executive Ed FitzGerald and Sheriff Frank Bova for providing us with additional layer of security. Many of our participants have expressed their desire to compete in the 36th annual Rite-Aid Cleveland Marathon as the way to show strength as both runners and Americans and to show support for Boston. I hope they will come out to the race knowing that their safety is of utmost importance. I look forward to seeing friends and family members along the course cheering the runners. I personally will be standing at the finish line along with members of my family, and I hope that reassures anyone who feels any anxiety. Marathon Day is a proud day for our city and county. We get the chance to show off all the great things of Cleveland to tens of thousands of people, many of them from out of town. So I'm thankful to the city, county, and federal law enforcement officials who have so quickly shown support for our event and its participants. We're looking forward to our race weekend on May 18th and 19th, and I know many, many runners and walkers are as well. Thank you again to County Executive Ed FitzGerald and Sheriff Frank Bova for reaching out and assisting the Rite-Aid Cleveland Marathon to make it safe and enjoyable for many. Thank you.
I just wanted to add a couple things. One is that the county is also, in addition to the efforts that we already outlined, we're also a participant in the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. Now, that consists of agents from the FBI, the Secret Service, State Department, Customs, the U.S. Marshals, the Border Patrol, but it also, we also participate in it through our sheriff's deputies, and they're, of course, on kind of a heightened alert right now with everything that's happened. We also want to use this event to support the victims of the Boston Marathon bombing, and there is a fund called the One Boston Fund, and there's going to be, Jack, could you talk a little bit about that, the way that we're going to try to promote that,
right.
and if you could explain that a little bit.
The Rite-Aid Cleveland Marathon partnered with the Cincinnati Marathon and the Pittsburgh Marathon, which will be run on May 5th, those two, and then we're on the 19th of May. And the three marathons went together and purchased a large amount of wristbands that will say Boston Strong on it, and we'll each get our proportionate share, and they will sell theirs on the weekend of their race, and any of the bands that aren't sold will then come to us, and we'll finish off the inventory with all proceeds going to the Boston Fund.
Yeah, I'm gonna have Sheriff Bova talk about this a little bit, but this is the kind of event that we train for all the time. It's a tragedy when something like this happens in Boston, but we try to learn from the event, and we always have built into our schedule ways to try to train and prepare for any eventuality. And it just so happens we already had on the schedule, before the Boston situation already happened, that we were planning for a disaster exercise. That's happening today, actually. It's a pretty involved event with multi-jurisdictions, different law enforcement jurisdictions. That's happening at Progressive Field, actually. Sheriff, could you just mention a couple of details about how that's going to work today?
Sure. As we speak, the exercise is underway at Progressive Field. It's a collaboration between federal, state, local, county officials and law enforcement personnel. Bomb scenarios, shooting scenarios, it's all being taken place at Progressive Field right now. It enhances our ability to protect and serve. Thank you.
Any questions for myself or the sheriff or Mr. Staph? Yes. I'll let Jack answer that, but I would just say in general that this is the first time that the county is stepping up and saying we're being an official partner in it, because it was basically kind of outsourced to the marathon. They were responsible for hiring their own staff, which they still do, but this is something where over and above what the folks that they've hired, we're deploying our own people. So everything we talked about is in addition to what they normally would do. Right. Jack?
Roughly speaking, our security is about 350 to 400 security personnel on race day. That will, as I mentioned earlier, will be increased substantially thanks to the help of the county. We're also working with, and we'll continue to work with, in our planning with the Cleveland Police Department, the FBI, the ATF, and Homeland Security. So the number that will be there I don't know yet. It's still a work together with these groups. We have an outside security company that we've always had, and they're leading the charge and scheduling the meeting with the various agencies.
I have a question about explosives sniffing dogs. Are you up for dogs? Are people bags being searched?
Yes, we have up the dogs. How many, we don't know yet, and we're gathering them from around the city, the county, and the state. And yes, any unattended bag will be searched and confiscated.
What about people, our bags in general?
No, not if no, we can't do that. But we will, anything that's abandoned or anything that's left unattended will be searched.
Is there anything that you can tell the crowd to keep an eye on and things that you want? So people who are attending the marathon, people to look out for.
Yes, there's a program that comes from the state that's being incorporated in our work, and I think it's call us if you see something or something like that. See something, say something. I know I'd get it. See something, say something, and there'll be anyone at the finish line or on the course, you'll see law enforcement personnel if you see something unusual or concerning. So you'll be able to address it with them. If I understand your question, we have received no threats or any concerns of threats.
All right. Paul, I could just, I could add, I could tell you that right after the tragedy in Boston, there was a review done of intelligence or anything that's out there, because after a specific event happens, then you look at your own intelligence that you've gathered and you see if something is more relevant because of what happened in Boston. And so a review was done of that, and the various law enforcement agencies do a much better job ever since September 11th in sharing that information. We do that locally through something called the Fusion Center, which actually we're going to do a tour of, I think, next week sometime, something like that. Is it today? We're going to do some of that today. And basically, the Fusion is a fusion of intelligence, so that what Cleveland Police knows is not kept in a silo from what from what the FBI knows, or the ATF or U.S. Marshals. So a review of that was done, and there wasn't found to be anything that was particularly concerning for the Cleveland area.
Our security team is working with the Fusion Center.
The city is an essential partner, and we can't do this without the city. And the city has their events sometimes where they talk about what they're doing, and sometimes the county has our events. We talk about what we're doing, and sometimes we do it jointly. And we've had plenty of events that we do jointly. This is a specific thing that the county is doing with the Cleveland Marathon, but it doesn't mean, or that the county is doing with the Cleveland Marathon, but much of the marathon takes place, most of it takes place in the city of Cleveland, and they're an essential partner. There may have been deputies, but it was basically outsourced, or it was kind of offloaded onto the marathon itself. And so Jack and his organization would hire off-duty folks. Now, it didn't mean there wasn't anybody on duty, because there's always folks that are on duty, but we had never mobilized our whole sheriff's department to say, in addition to whatever the Cleveland Marathon organization is doing, we're throwing our own deputies into the mix. But I thought it was justified under the circumstances.
Well, we're expecting 22,000 runners over the 2 days of races, and that usually brings in about 45,000 spectators.
And
I would say somewhere between 30 and 40,000 people.
And Jack, that's
about 18,000. I would say anywhere from 35,000 to 45,000. Yes, that's throughout the 26-mile course.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
About 80,000.
No. We get about 45,000 people total. We have 2 days of races. We have a race on Saturday, which is a kids race, and a 5K. Then on Sundays, we have the half marathon, marathon, and 10K. Correct.
So there'll be security that people will be unaware of, but they'll also be security of the officers.
Yes. A lot of visuals.
And is that different from previously,
Yes.
the uniform security?
No, the hidden security.
Okay.
There'll be-
The uniform security?
Oh, yes, yes.
What about surveillance? Who is going to be contacting companies throughout downtown? The city has some surveillance cameras at intersections for that community.
It's something that we're talking about. I don't know how much we can reveal. As I said, we've met with this group. There are many more meetings are scheduled. We have until the 19th. But everything that's available to us from a security perspective will be utilized.
And Jack, you may have answered this, but are there more participants this year that have signed up, or fewer, the same?
Our entry numbers are the same as what we projected. We're about 5 or 6% above last year. Last year we had just over 20,000, and this year we're expecting about 22,000, and that's in all events. No, no, not because of this. We've had people withdraw because of injuries.
No, I understand.
Yeah, no, not because of this. No, not at all. No, as I mentioned, what we're hearing is a strong sentiment among the runners that they want to come out to prove that we are free Americans and that they want to support Boston. We're meeting with the FBI. Whether or not they'll be there on race day, I don't know, and I don't know if I'm really at liberty to reveal a whole lot more than what I've said.
There is anti-terrorism.
Yes, yes, yes.
There's an ongoing task force called the Joint Terrorism Task Force it's multi-jurisdictional. So it's the FBI, but it's also U.S. Marshals, DEA, ATF. So it's all the federal agencies, and then local agencies. Cleveland Police participate in it. County sheriffs participate in it as well. Noberto, is there media availability for what we're doing at Progressive Field too?
Yeah, they have to be.
Okay, so they know that. Okay. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Signed and includes miles for 15
Yes.
People will be available for individual questions if you want to talk to any of the participants. And thanks for making this information available to the public. Thank you very much.